I've got a present for the world, and it's me, simply being me.
The continual Southern Colorado Conference on Conscious Living and Dying focus is deepening the support for all who are choosing healing and higher consciousness through the life and death journey, and always, always building conscious community. In that light, we are pleased to collaborate with other similar groups and resource people. This spring, we are particularly pleased to work in partnership with Eduardo Griego and Contactee of Pueblo in bringing our keynote speaker, Eileen Meyer, to Southern Colorado. Our theme today is the sound of truth, recalling our power and purpose. We are coming to understand that it is all the big it. The it is all about frequency, resonance, vibration, and the heart, yes, that sacred place from which our truth arises. I want to real quickly just introduce Eduardo Griego. Eduardo is very familiar to most of you. He was our speaker last year, one of our speakers at the spring seminar almost exactly a year ago today. And many of you know him from his classes and workshops here at the library, as well as the fire ceremonies that he does at El Pueblo Museum. In 1993, Eduardo began researching and studying Mayan science and prophecies, and in 1997, after various life-changing events, he traveled to Guatemala in search of information, and there he met his Mayan teachers. Over the next 3 years, Ed traveled back and forth to Antigua many times, walking the Camino de Agua, which is the water path, and the Camino del Fuego, which is the fire path in the Mayan tradition. He was initiated in 2000 and began his work as the counter of days. For the last 11 years, he's conducted ceremonies and classes throughout New Mexico and Southern Colorado. Today, Eduardo will be supporting Eileen in doing sacred ceremony and sound resonance work. He will briefly review for us the sacred science and teachings of the Quechua Maya, taught to him by the Mayan elders in Guatemala. And he and Eileen shared a trip or two to the Mayan culture in Guatemala, and both are very much in alignment with this whole philosophy that has influenced what we're going to talk about today. So let's just welcome Eduardo this morning to our seminar. Thank you.
As Marcia just said, I've been doing my share here in Southern Colorado ever since I decided to move back here to involve all of us in remembering who we are. According to the ancient teachers that I aspire to learning more about, we're learning more and more about them every day. They basically have guided us into an understanding that the whole universe that we're a part of has gone through a tremendous movement where we're at the end of a long cycle on December 21st, 2012, a few years ago, and that during that time we would begin to realign ourselves with the universal energy that all of us are a part of, that we're all universal citizens, and that this time would be, according to elders all over the world, not just to the Maya, that this time would be the beginning of a new cycle, when human beings would begin to apply the true powers that we have within us, that we would go back into our hearts and remember that our heart really is the guide, and that it is the essence of what we want to remember how to do, is to go there in a peaceful way through our practices that were passed down through the ages. I was initiated in the year 2000, and shortly after I came back to the United States, I met a young woman, Eileen, who immediately we connected on another level of wanting to know more about these ancient teachers, and she traveled and did all of the sacred fires that are necessary in order to become an Kundalini, which is a counter of the days. It requires 20 fire ceremonies in 20 separate locations, different locations, sacred locations throughout. And then she was initiated into Call, and at that point became an Kundalini. The 20 ceremonies have to be done in a 260-day period of time, which is a Mayan year on the sacred calendar, 260 days. Those 260 days revolve around 20 glyphs and 13 tones that we'll be working with this afternoon. We'll go through them and we'll tone together. We won't be talking so much about the tones themselves, the numbers, but we'll be doing the glyphs themselves, and we'll show you how they relate to the human body, where they connect to our bodies. And with that, I just want to say that when Eileen initiated, part of what goes on there is learning your universal or cosmic identity. And her cosmic identity is Hun Akabal. And Hun Akabal, in the Mayan teachings, is the understanding of oneness and also connection to the third eye. The Nawal of Akabal is the bat, and the bat uses sound and sonar to really, it's quite an amazing mammal that flies, but uses sonar in all of its flying to determine distances to whatever it's searching for and obstacles. So sound is our essence of what we want to teach in this day, of how important sound is to us. In fact, I think a lot of us are learning that we can do amazing things through using sound. And that's how many of the large stones and a lot of the megaliths were moved and placed, was through sound. And now our scientists are just starting to discover this. I happen to believe, this is my theory, and I think most of us that study these teachings, is that we're also using the energy that comes from the heart. And that's where this wonderful woman here, my dear friend, will guide us as to how we can start using this amazing power that we already have within each of us, that we have everything we need in order to move into the future. And as we look around and see how things are changing and shifting, it's important for us to remember who we are, that we're here, and that we choose love. So, any questions about what I just said before we move on? Then I'd like to introduce my dear friend, Eileen Meyer.
I very much appreciate being here, present with you. I'm just now coming out in a bigger way. I'm not able to be silent anymore. I'm not able to pretend that these things didn't happen. I don't care what people think of me. I have no fear around judgment. I've heard it my entire life. I've been made fun of, laughed at, pretty much my whole life. And it has a way of just shifting and changing and rolling off your back at a certain point. I think it's more important that people know what they are connected to. That is of the utmost importance to me, that I share with you what I learned through this journey in consciousness over my entire lifetime. So they call me an experiencer. And that's just a word, it's just a label. It doesn't have any meaning to me, except that it's a place to start in beginning to frame the unframeable. What it means for me is I went on dozens and dozens of journeys in consciousness, taken beyond all that we were told, all that we know from this realm, repeatedly. And seeing what the nature of reality is, both in vision and in feeling in the physical body. This is going to be key to what I speak about today. This is not a mental connection to beyond. This is a physical experience, especially when I start talking about Kundalini and Kwayopa. What I do know from these experiences absolutely is that we are all one. There is no death. We are deeply and unconditionally loved. And that's, our power is beyond measure, but it's when we shift to that inner source connection, not the one as defined in the outer world, but the one that you can feel that connection with, through your heart, through every cell of your body. What I also learned is humanity has been trying to fit into a context that is far too small for our original design. Our consciousness is massive, and we've been a bit conditioned. We define ourselves in language, concepts, and ideas. We define our outer world that way. We define ourselves this way. This is what we were taught. But that's not who we are. The universe lives, breathes, and speaks in frequency. And so do we. What I discovered. Our bodies are both receivers and broadcasters of frequency. I want to show you a map before I get into my story. I'm not really here to talk about phenomenon and the drama of all of it. I'm here because it changes consciousness. And we need to know that, and we need to get moving on the shift in our own consciousness. What I have learned is that the experiencer phenomenon, I speak to a lot of experiencers now, this phenomenon is about jump-starting our consciousness. And what I learned is when we meet or attune to this soul feminine identity, the universal identity, we can begin to attune and unpack the data that comes in energy. It is attuning to frequency. It's something that I've done since I was a child, and then translating that frequency. This is our sense of interconnectedness with all in this universal natural state. And our power comes from that inner authority that is aligned with natural law. We develop exterior personas to interface with this three-dimensional world. This is the masculine representation. We learn from other people, we learn from our parents, our family, our communities, our schools. We take in all this data, plus now we have 1.2 million terabytes of data online. That's just the big four. That's just Facebook, Google, Microsoft, and Amazon. So much more than that, as you know. And this is beliefs, theories, and opinions on the nature of reality. Not saying they're not good theories and good beliefs and good opinions, but you have access to the truth so that you know and can resonate. And I'm going to tell you about that in just a moment. Our power is given to an outer authority aligned with man-made law. Okay? Is this making sense?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. All right. Whew, I just got a good boost of confidence there. Now, when we begin to only focus on this side in the outer world, this starts to dim. This is your veil. This is what you begin to be cut off from, your natural state, the feminine part of your being. It doesn't matter what gender you are. We all have a masculine and feminine. So what happens when we have an experience? This is like a near-death experience, contact with non-human intelligence, Kundalini, Kwayopa, mystical meditation, out-of-body experiences, some lucid dreaming that takes you out of this focus. The nature of truth is finite with glimpses. Your perceptions are highly, highly manipulatable when this is all you think is reality. But for the most part, everything over here on the left-hand side of the screen is, I don't know, it's just a mystery. You know? It's just, God works in mysterious ways. And it does seem mysterious because we're cut off from most of our consciousness, most of our natural consciousness. Okay? Yes, then you have an experience. Kaboom. Kaboom. All right? Now what happens? The experiencer goes, everything that I thought was real, everything that everybody told me, authorities and all, it's not true. There's some truth, there's little glimmers of truth throughout it, but for the most part, none of what we have been told is accurate. Once you see beyond what we've been, sometimes I call it a containment, sometimes I call it the matrix, but it is a container where we are vulnerable because we're not using our whole consciousness. Okay? The nature of truth in your universal state is infinite. You are multi-dimensional beings. You can embody knowing truth with a capital T. There is, sorry, I'm not going to curse, but sometimes I curse for emphasis. Well, okay, moving along. You can't be manipulated. Truth with a capital T. You feel it. You know it. It's beyond a shadow of a doubt. Okay? And then what happens is you start to practice moving the true you, the true self, through your consciousness, having it flow in, and everything you speak and all your actions is truth. Authenticity. This was my family as far as I was concerned. I seemed to be like camping out at this house with these other people that were my family. But my attention was on this connection here, most of all. Beautiful, loving, radiant beings that spoke to me through this natural resonance, communion. There's no words exchanged. There's no telepathy rattling around in my head. It's a full body feeling, knowing connection. And in the third eye, pictures are also communicated. It's very clear. There's no question, in the dialogue. And I also spoke back to them in this natural way. It was natural. There wasn't anything else to compare it to until I started to get older. And then also, I've always been a translator. To just give you an example of how my entire life has been backwards, I know who these beings are, and many others, because of their frequency. I mean, I didn't have to say, well, that's Joe in the back, Sam is in the front right. They don't need names. We know who they are, just through energy. And my mom was reading a Bible story to me. She was a very religious woman one day, and she turned the page and she said, and this is the angel. And I went, oh, is that what you call them? And there was a word for me. I translated the meaning, what the meaning was to her was a felt experience for me. So I said, okay. Angel. My mother grew very tired of the stories of my interactions, my conversations, things that I was told. A lot of it had to do with the future. A lot of it through the years has been about right now. Yeah. And then there were numerous episodes of me waking up above my bed, levitating. I'd open my eyes and I'd realize I was floating up off of my bed. And often you are frozen in place. Yeah. We have some experiencers here, don't we? I see some nods. Well, welcome. Do you want to raise your hand if you're an experiencer? All right. Oh, I love you all. Thank you for being here. I love experiencers. I'm talking to them all the time now, and it's just so much joy I can't even tell you. We have to start talking with each other. Yeah. So flying spheres of light, they were my favorite once I got used to this energy again. They were little balls of light, mostly white, but sometimes different colors, and they would, as I'm levitating above my bed, they're whizzing in and out of the room, going through the walls and back down from the ceiling, and it was delightful. I remember their energy was just delightful, and I loved them very much. But again, it was all, I didn't have anyone to talk to about it. So there was that gap. So there was fear initially until I remembered and I was communing again with them. I could hear, here's the point, I could hear the language again. I could feel what they were saying to me because I didn't have fear blocking. When I was afraid, they were just, what is happening to me? When I didn't have the fear, oh, hello, and then the dialogue. I developed an absolute obsession with singing at this time. I didn't have this before. It was probably around 11 years old that I had to sing. And the problem with that is I couldn't sing. So they moved the upright piano in. My mom showed me, here's the white keys, here's the black keys, here's how they relate to each other, and then pointed to the sheet music and said, this is how these notes relate to what's on the page. And so I took off and I taught myself how to play and how to sing, but I had help with the singing part. This presence came back in and became a vocal coach to me. I'd sing and then I'd hear, now try it from this place, feel it here, just like a vocal coach would do. And guided me through, and I made enormous progress in a very short period of time with my singing. I'm holding the note, and the next thing I know, everything disappears, including me. And there was no Eileen there. It was just bright light, love, oneness with all. I'm not sure I can even find better words than that. So I came back into my everyday consciousness, and I had tears streaming down my face. And the first thing one of my very first thoughts was, I have to tell my mom. And so she came and she stood across from me and she said, what is it? And I said, Mom, you were right. You were right all along. God is love. Can you feel it? Can you feel it, Mom? It's here. It's all around us. Tears streaming down my face. And she just nodded and she stepped back and turned and went straight to her Bible, to her relationship with God on a page. And I was standing across from her saying, it's here, this is it. So imagine what that feels like, to not be met in the way that you need to be met. When you have an experience of the divine, it's the same thing as trauma. When you're not met, your needs to understand what happened here. Can somebody mirror this? Can somebody validate this for me? And then you have none. So what happens is, I can do this. I can do this. I can fit, I can fit, I can fit. And this is just one of many inconsistencies that occurs when you have these kinds of experiences. So this is the gap where trauma lives, where everything that doesn't make sense lives, and this is where the split becomes the norm. All right, we're talking about the split. There's your split. I got your split. All right. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see some of my journals. I was always encouraged to document this from this inner presence. Keep track of this, write about it. What did it feel like to you? What was your experience? And not just then, but over time, to check back in and say, here's what I learned from this. Oh, I understand now. And so it was always just teaching, learning. This was out in Rye, Colorado, when I stayed with Eduardo to write my book. And I had my journals spread all over the bed. And that's just a small representation of them. So at the same time that I was experiencing all of this, I became a professional vocalist in Southern California. So on the left-hand side of the screen, you're seeing pages from some of my journals, the downloads, the information that was given to me in these interactions. And I would just be immersed in the energy, and I would just document it the best I could when I came out of it. On the right-hand side, I was a frickin' cool rocker chick, okay? Totally. I was cool. It's the only time in my life that I was cool. I didn't really know how to deal with that, actually, because I'm an introvert. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. But I wanted to sing so badly that I was willing to break through that terror. This was the last 7-piece original rock band we were doing magnificently. And the split grew so far apart, as you might imagine, between the left and the right here, that I couldn't go on. I was being called to reconcile this gap, and how that appeared was through severe depression. Severe depression. I don't know how to be here. I can't do this anymore in the outer world. And nobody wants me the way I am naturally. Nobody wants to hear about it. Okay. So that great divide occurred. Severe depression. I was ready to commit suicide. And it was the closest I ever came. There were a few times in my life where I couldn't bear it anymore. I couldn't bear having to be both, having to live two different lives. An outer world persona, keep everybody happy, don't rock the boat in any way. And for God's sake, don't be yourself. And it was about a week and a half of this just full-on raging. And I was raging at those beings. I was so angry at them. Why are you doing this to me? What is the point of all of this? I can't fit in this world. You make me a weirdo. And the more you come and visit and you give me these things, the further I get away from fitting in. So at the end of this raging, I woke up, walked to get my coffee. I felt a peace. And I heard, this is great. This is good. Are you ready now? Same time, same place, they said, every day. Same time, same place. And I committed to that, and I did it. And that's everything to this source field, to God, the angels, that if we just do what we commit to doing, amazing things can move and happen. So I did this, until Kundalini occurred, a full Kundalini awakening. Now, I went a few weeks previous from I want to die to oneness again, full body oneness. Powerful energy, they call it in Kundalini, that latent female energy coiled at the bottom of the spine, the goddess energy that is represented by the veiled part in the beginning. Remember my map? Well, she's dormant at the base of the spine until she feels welcome here. And if she feels welcome and we're ready to see the truth and be the truth in the world, kablooey, she will awaken. And she will change your consciousness. That's what happened to me. Coyopa found out when I was writing the book, I didn't have a title. Eduardo knows this well. He was part of the finding this word. He came to me and he said, look at this definition in the materials that my teachers gave me in Guatemala. Look, this sounds like what happened to you and what happens to you. I said, yes, that's now the name of my book. And that is what happened. So it doesn't matter what you call it. It's a full experience of that awakening goddess within. This brought me full circle with the changes in my consciousness, the openings. I wrote 3 CDs worth of music. I wasn't a songwriter, really, up to that point. But I heard tons and tons of music. The lyrics, the chords. I had to dig out my keyboard, which I hadn't really played since I was a young girl, but I always had one with me. I hooked it up, dusted it off, and hunted and pecked for what I was hearing coming to me. Everything came at once. I wish I had more time to tell you more about the changes in consciousness that occur in Kundalini. But I'm going to bring it back up to full circle. By 2005, a new phase began. It took me years, I must add, to integrate the Coyopa experience. It isn't just, ooh, that was nice. No. It rearranges your consciousness. It reconnects the hemispheres of the brain, brings the heart to the fore. It brings the heart becomes the authority, the mind becomes the servant. You become a balanced human being. You feel what it feels to be natural again. This new phase was, I was in Hawaii studying mentoring with a channel and a shaman. And I learned many things from him, but I did also learn that I could not learn how to channel. I didn't access mentally. I access with my body. I access with energy. So I became very frustrated. I began to just meditate and talk about how I want to be able to share what you're giving me, but I don't know how. How do I translate this? So they came in, this presence guided me through another a tool that we can use. I ended up calling it Coyopa meditation, but I was shown how to access this connection to the universe in real time and translate it in real time. So it sounds like channeling, but it's not. It's me in real time, but sometimes with a foreign sounding accent because it feels foreign to me. But I've come to understand that it is me, and it's a field. It's a field of data that I can access. I found out, and what they showed me was that our superpower is our emotional nature. And that's no surprise, right? We're all told to squash that. Emotions are bad. Don't be so emotional. Well, there's a key within that is your power. That's where you get things moving. And that's what Coyopa meditation is about. It does open this inner doorway if we're committed to that. So why should we heal this trauma? Why should we heal all these inconsistencies? Why should we bridge the gap, heal the rift? Especially now. The Maya, even the Tibetans, the ancient Egyptians, Cherokee, and Hopi, all pointed to this time period on their calendars. We can essentially walk across that bridge and get off of this consensus reality wheel. Hey, if the world works great for you, I'm thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled for you. For a while, maybe for some of you it worked. But for me, it never worked, ever. This is a very, very bizarre world to me. But something kept pushing me forward and pushing me forward. And it's love. Because I know what love is. I know what I'm connected to. So this shift, for all the people who laughed at the end of the Mayan calendar, snap out of it, because we're in it right now. We're in this shift now. So it's very important that we become as clear as we can be so we can begin to resonate with our universal consciousness. We're not going to change anything in this world at the level that we've been engaging with, right? You have a power within you that is backed up by the universe. And you'll start finding your gifts as I found mine and expanded the gifts I already had. Once you open to this restoration. Make no mistake, it takes a ton of courage to do this work. But the reason why you're seeing chaos in the outer world is because more and more of us are pulling back our energy. We've been agreeing with the movie screen. We've all been watching the movie thinking that this is life, but now more and more of us are pulling back. That's not life. This is life. And that wreaks havoc in the outer world. So don't get too down about what's happening in the outer world. Just breathe. Be careful that you don't contract back into fear. Expand, open, breathe into that love. This is the Vesica Pisces. You guys familiar with that symbol? Yeah. What we're doing is we're straddling two worlds right now. A lot of what I'm sharing with you has come through the messages and through the feeling, knowing connections. That this is where we are now, straddling. It's important that you know in frequency who you are and what's true. And just let the chaos go on around you. But when you're present and you're open, you know what you need to know when you need to know it. Remember when Jesus said, I come not to send peace, but a sword. The people who are invested in life as it has always been, they are going to put up, and are putting up a big fight. So it's important, again, that you continue to anchor yourself in that love, that power. And you will probably upset people. Believe me, I've had lots of experience with this. I upset a lot of people in my life, especially when I started to speak my truth. It upsets people. You're going to have to get used to that. But I don't mean upsetting people in an agitating way. You just embody it. You don't have to argue. You just know it, and you radiate it. Someone asks a question, you can certainly respond in love. Tihash, this is the glyph, the Cholki calendar. It means to cut away all negative energy, to start off a new path, to liberate us from anything that has us trapped. So it's represented there. That'll be one of the tones that we tone this afternoon. Mother Earth is communicating to us. There's the Vesica Pisces I stopped counting a little before a dozen as I was looking through for images of crop circles. Do you know that they have footage of little spheres, little balls of light flying over the fields and creating these wonderful, wonderful messages to us from Gaia, from the natural world? Okay. That section in the middle, that oval, is, I think they call it the mandorla. It is the divine feminine. It is the birth canal for a new being, a new world, a new reality. And I had to throw this one in because there they really wanted you to know this is the divine feminine. Okay? This is something they told me. I say they. Pronouns, it's weird translating. We need pronouns, but this presence conveyed this to me many times. They said, you don't have to believe in anything. We don't want you to believe in anything. Certainly don't believe in what we're telling you. They said, let's look at the word believe. And they showed this. It looked exactly like that in my mind's eye. They said, you don't have to leave your being to know who you are, to know the truth, to be connected, to feel and know all that you need to know. Rather, in this time, we are coming back into our being. No separation, no gap. Because I want to show you what happens when you have a gap. What this means is we're walking around in the outer world going, I don't know anything. Please tell me. Somebody tell me. Church? Okay. Science? Sure. I'll buy that. Outer world. This is where outer authority in the world inserts itself as the truth. This is where we can be manipulated because we've separated ourselves from our own knowing and our own being. Rather, universal truth as authority is our being. And we are authoring our own being into the world. Here's an audio file of one of the messages.
We are present to encourage you to take these steps to the doorway. State your intention that the doorway opens to you to remember. To begin to resonate and hear the language of the universe, so that you may restore your vitality, restore your creativity, restore your excitement, restore your sense of purpose and value in this reality that you find yourselves within. This doorway is the way to your fullness on earth. What frequency, what alignment do you choose? If you are afraid to feel all of yourself, all of the energy, all of the capacities that you were designed to be, then chances are you will choose the pathway that you have always known and that you have trusted because it kept you feeling in place with purpose. An identity, a role, serving in some capacity to a lesser degree than what you are capable of. You are choosing each moment, each step, what you align with, how much of your power you assign to others, and how much of your heart will be present and open in this reality. And your world will reflect back to you, mirror to you your own choices. Whether it is the choice of deepening this conscious connection with your Creator, with all that is, or whether it is to further explore limitations. The more courageous you are at this timing to face fears, to be willing to truly see your own heart and all that stands in the way between you and your Creator and your community on earth and beyond. One must consciously make room for it. And this does require courage. We are here to inspire, to guide, to encourage. There is love. There is expansion. There is glory beyond the fear. Believe. Some of you leave your being. You believe that this is possible. And this is wonderful. But with this presence, we guide you back to your being. You do not need to leave your being in order to proceed. In fact, you must be present. You will be guided within from this point forward, and you may share in your communities what you are learning and discovering, hearing how others traverse these pathways and what they learned, so that you may be inspired and supported and have this new mirroring, a mirroring for a new way of being on earth. There is no 10-step process where you then reach the finish line and you are enlightened and awakened and glory be. One must accept the fact that you are being glory. When you remember that that is what you are, and it is possible to be that and radiate that here and now. Thank you for your attention. Good day.
This is what I wanted to share with you this morning. From consensus reality, all that we thought we were, because we were told who we were defined. It was dictated to us who we were and what reality was. Truth doesn't happen in the collective until it happens within the individual. So no more sitting back and waiting for something magical to happen. That magic has to happen inside of you in your individual consciousness. Once this grows, and it will accelerate, I've been shown how quickly this can accelerate once enough individuals commit to, I don't care if you follow the way that I'm sharing with you, but make a commitment to restore your consciousness. Healing trauma and releasing fear bridges the gap to our universal true self. This new world is ushered in by us, and the sound of truth emerges through us in our voice and presence. We become a conscious conduit in this world. Remember the map I was showing you? You bring that truth through. You bring that authenticity through. You bring that cosmic being that you are through. And it takes courage to speak it and be it. But this presence guided me through these practices that help us to connect with ourselves again and then practice connecting in community again. And that's a very important step, to be gentle with each other. For instance, you might feel really good about the first part of speaking the truth out loud and saying, oh, I'm resonating, this is truth. And I'll talk a little more about Koyopa meditation later in the afternoon. But we won't be doing Koyopa meditation per se, but I am going to bring through the energy. We're going to have a kind of a healing circle with this presence so that you can feel it. You can feel the resonance of it through the toning and then inviting that in. But these practices, once you learn how to be truthful to yourself, because you wouldn't believe how much we lie to ourselves and to each other. I mean, it's all lies. And we don't even know it. We're not even aware that we lie all the time. Okay? So what happens is you then will step up to a person in community who's agreed to practice with you. And then you just, both of you notice, you observe, and you witness for each other. Did I get scared being authentic? And did I slap a mask on? Did I get the script rolling? Oh, beautiful day, blah, blah, blah. Nothing wrong with that kind of conversation. I do it all the time. But to practice authentic communion with each other. Giving each other permission to be who you are. You see, I'm doing this because I'm trying to give others what I never had. I want to give you permission to be authentic. Your true power and purpose comes directly from this higher octave level of consciousness. So if you're trying to find your power and your purpose in this world now, it's crumbling. And there goes your attachment to power and purpose in the outer world. It's important to know what your soul's gifts are. What are your higher gifts and capacities? This will come to the forefront when you give it attention. And this is what the new world needs. It needs your soul's gifts. It needs the more of you to be here, to anchor here, and to do this with Mother Earth, and with the heart of heaven, the heart of earth, and all of the hearts that are here.
Do you have some of those meditations in the book?
I have the meditation outlined in the book, but I was guided that this had to be done primarily in person. Yeah, and I'm going to be here for a while, like another week or so. If anybody's interested in doing a Koyopa meditation gathering where I can go into more detail about it, just let me know, because I'd be happy to arrange that. My website is koyoparising.com. You can find out anything there if you're interested in the work or you want to know more. I still have some open slots for private sessions if anybody's interested in that. And this delves into your soul level to see what you intended for this time, this particular crossroads in time, because many of us are here to make this transition in form. Later this afternoon, we're going to reconvene, and then we're going to do the toning of the glyphs. And as I said, I will go into an altered state and bring this energy through, and I want you to feel into what it is, what do you want? I mean, if your favorite religious archetype or angel, whoever that you look up to that holds these divine capacities, if you could answer that question, what do you want now in your life? Keeping in mind the higher octave reality that awaits. Be thinking about what you want to bring into that healing circle. What do you want so that can be activated and accelerated? Okay, so thank you everyone. I'll see you later this afternoon.
I've got a present for the world. and it's me, simply being me. I really tried, I couldn't sleep inside the ultimate dream, where we all pretend we cannot see. There's no one else to be, nowhere else to go. It's enough, you know, if you'll just breathe and be alive, alive, eyes open wide, in time, in time. Welcome, you're just in time. You are another me. You are more than what you believe. You are the mighty sun, you are the rain, and we are love itself, with many hands and fingers to touch, to feel, to know. There's no one else to be, nowhere else to go. It's enough, you know, if you just breathe and be alive, alive, eyes open wide, in time, in time. Welcome, you're just in time. You're just in time, and space is where I see your face, and yet there is a thread weaving soul to soul to soul, the soul.